The email came at 2:17 a.m. Your DNA results are ready. I almost didn't open it. Rain tapped against my apartment windows in Chicago, the kind that makes the city feel smaller than it is. Streetlights blurred into gold streaks outside, and the hum of traffic below felt distant. Safe. I was wrong. I'd ordered the DNA kit as a joke. My mom and I had been laughing about it over Sunday dinner 2 months earlier. She'd made her usual lasagna, and I'd teased her about our mysterious European roots. Watch, I told her. I'll find out we're royalty. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That was the first thing I should have noticed. I grew up believing my family's tragedy was simple. When my mom was 19, her parents and younger brother died in a house fire in Aurora, Illinois. She survived because she'd been working a late shift at a diner. She never talked about it much. Just that it was electrical. Fast. Unfair. My grandfather, Thomas Whitaker, had tried to save everyone. He didn't make it. At least, that's what I was told. I clicked the results. Ethnicity estimates loaded first. Irish. German. A little Scandinavian. Nothing dramatic. Then I scrolled down to DNA matches. And that's when my stomach dropped. Parent/child, 49.8% match. The name under it wasn't my father's. It wasn't even close. Daniel Mercer. Age, 54. Location, Naperville, Illinois. My dad's name is Robert Bennett. He's 58. And he lives in Florida. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe it was a distant relative miscategorized. But 49.8% isn't a glitch. That's apparent. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set my phone down. I called my mom. She answered on the third ring, groggy. Lily? It's after 2. Are you okay? That's when everything changed. Mom, I said, my voice thinner than I'd ever heard it. Who is Daniel Mercer? Silence. Not confusion. Not laughter. Silence. Why are you asking me that? She finally said. I took the DNA test. Another silence. Longer this time. Mom, I whispered. It says he's my father. I expected denial. Anger. Something loud. Instead, she exhaled like someone who'd been holding their breath for 30 years. Lily, she said softly, we need to talk. But not over the phone. The next morning, I drove to her house in the suburbs. The sky was a dull gray, heavy with leftover rain. Her neighborhood looked exactly as it always had, trim lawns, identical mailboxes, the illusion of control. She opened the door before I knocked. She looked smaller. Not physically. Just tired. We sat at the kitchen table where I'd done homework as a kid. The same table where she'd told me about the fire when I was 10. You said Grandpa died trying to save everyone, I began. She nodded. That part is true. My chest tightened. What part isn't? She rubbed her hands together. A nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. Your father, she said carefully, is Robert Bennett. That's not what the test says. She looked up at me, and there it was. Fear. I met Daniel before your dad, she said. Briefly. It didn't last. I stared at her. So he is my father. No, the word came too fast. Then why does the test say that? She stood up suddenly and walked to the sink, gripping the counter like she might fall. There are things you don't understand, she said. Then explain them. She turned around, and I saw tears forming. After the fire, she said slowly, everything was chaos. Insurance claims. Lawsuits. Investigations. Investigations? I asked. She froze. You said it was electrical. That's what they ruled. Ruled? I repeated. The air felt heavier. She walked to a drawer and pulled out a thin folder. I'd never seen it before. Some records were sealed, she said. Because of me. My heart started pounding again. Inside the folder were yellowed newspaper clippings. Whitaker home engulfed in flames. Teen daughter sole survivor. I skimmed until one headline made my pulse spike. Questions surround fire timeline. Mom, I said quietly. What does that mean? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she slid one final document across the table. A court seal stamped in faded blue ink. I scanned the first paragraph. Petition to amend birth record. My name. Original father listed, Daniel Mercer. Amended father listed, Robert Bennett. I felt like the room tilted. You changed it, I whispered. She shook her head violently. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Her voice cracked. Daniel was there that night. The words didn't make sense. At the fire? I asked. Yes. But you said Grandpa died trying to save everyone. He did. Then why was Daniel there? She pressed her lips together like she'd already said too much. That's when I noticed something else. At the bottom of the document. Reason for amendment, paternity reassignment following closed investigation. Closed investigation. Not accident. Investigation. Mom, I said slowly, what aren't you telling me? Her eyes filled completely now. The man who died in that house, she whispered, wasn't who you think he was. My skin went cold. What does that mean? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed on the table. A notification from the DNA app. New match found. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Immediate family, 48% match. Name, Ava Mercer. Age, 26. Relationship prediction, full sibling. I don't have a sister. I looked up at my mom, my pulse roaring in my ears. Mom, I said, barely able to speak. Who is Ava? My mom didn't answer right away. She just stared at the phone like it might explode. Ava Mercer, I repeated. It says she's my full sibling. The word full felt heavier than it should have. My mom slowly sat back down. She shouldn't be on there, she whispered. That wasn't denial. That was panic. She shouldn't be? I echoed. Mom, that's not how DNA works. She pressed her fingers to her temples. I thought it was sealed. I thought everything was sealed. Sealed where? In court? In paperwork? In your memory? Her eyes snapped up at me. Don't. But it was too late. Something inside me had already cracked open. You told me Grandpa died in a tragic accident. You told me you were alone. You told me Dad was my father. Now I find out there's some Daniel Mercer, a sealed investigation, and apparently a sister I've never heard of? She flinched at the word sister. Ava isn't your sister, she said too quickly. The test says she is. The test doesn't know the whole story. Then tell me the whole story. The kitchen felt smaller by the second. She stood again and paced near the window. When the fire happened, she began slowly, the police didn't immediately rule it electrical. They questioned everyone. Neighbors. Co-workers. Anyone connected to the house. Why? I asked. She hesitated. Because someone reported an argument earlier that night. My stomach tightened. An argument between who? She swallowed. Me. And my father. I blinked. You fought with Grandpa? She nodded faintly. I was 19. I thought I knew everything. I wanted to move out. He didn't want me leaving. That doesn't mean I didn't start that fire, she snapped. Her voice echoed against the cabinets. We both froze. The rain had started again outside, tapping against the glass. I didn't, she said softer. But the investigation, it changed things. How? I asked. She sat down again, slower this time. Daniel Mercer was my boyfriend back then, she said. Older. Complicated. How much older? 7 years. Mom. I know. She looked ashamed. He came by the house that night, she continued. We argued too. My dad didn't approve of him. He thought Daniel was reckless. What were you arguing about? I asked carefully. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the folder and pulled out another clipping. This one was smaller. Unidentified male questioned in Whitaker fire. The article mentioned a man seen near the property shortly before the blaze. Name withheld pending investigation. That was Daniel, she said. My pulse quickened. So he was a suspect? Yes. Was he arrested? No. They didn't have enough evidence. But you changed my birth certificate, I said slowly. Her face tightened. I was already pregnant, she whispered. The words hit like cold water. With me? Yes. And Grandpa didn't know? He suspected. So you were pregnant, fighting with your father, your boyfriend shows up, there's a fire, and somehow this is all just tragic coincidence? Her breathing grew uneven. It wasn't coincidence. The air went still. What does that mean? She stared at the table. Daniel and my father fought that night. Badly. My throat felt dry. Physically? Yes. I felt like I was watching someone else's life unfold. After I left for work, she continued, Daniel stayed behind. And the fire started less than an hour later. My hands went cold. You think he did it? I don't know, she whispered. But the police thought he might have. And you still had his baby. She looked at me like I'd stabbed her. I loved him. Silence swallowed the room. But here's what doesn't make sense, I said slowly. If Daniel was suspected, and you were pregnant, why put his name on my birth certificate at all? She closed her eyes. Because at the time, he was listed as deceased. The words didn't register. What? The body they pulled from the house was identified as him. The world tilted again. You just said Grandpa died trying to save everyone. He did, she said quickly. But the body near the back staircase was believed to be Daniel's. My heart started racing. Believed? The fire destroyed so much. Identification wasn't as advanced back then. So they assumed. Yes. And you thought he was dead? She nodded. But then Robert Bennett comes along, I said slowly. And suddenly he's my father? She looked up at me. Robert was stable. Kind. Safe. He helped me rebuild. That doesn't answer the question. She inhaled sharply. 3 months after your birth, Daniel contacted me. Everything inside me went still. He was alive, I said. Yes. My chest felt tight. So whose body was in that house? She shook her head. They never conclusively determined. Mom. They thought it was Daniel because he was reported missing after the fire. But he wasn't. No, the implications were spinning too fast. So Daniel survives the fire. A body is misidentified. You're pregnant. He reappears. And instead of correcting the record, you change my birth certificate to Robert's name? Her voice dropped to almost nothing. Daniel was under investigation. For arson. Yes. And possibly homicide, she added quietly. The word landed like a brick. Homicide. No one survived, I whispered. That's what the public believed, she said. But Daniel did. Yes. Then why does the title of every article say no survivors except daughter? She met my eyes. Because Daniel disappeared again. A chill crawled up my spine. When? Right after he contacted me. Like, vanished? Yes. Voluntarily? She hesitated. I don't know. The rain outside intensified. Did you see him after the fire? I asked. Once. When? The night he contacted me. And? He said things weren't what they seemed. Like what? She looked terrified now. He said my father wasn't innocent. My breath caught. You said Grandpa died trying to save everyone. That's what I believed, she said desperately. That's what they told me. They? The investigators. My phone buzzed again. Another notification from the DNA app. A message request from Ava Mercer. My fingers felt numb as I opened it. It was short. Hi. I think we're sisters. And I think our fathers lied to both of us. I couldn't hear anything except my own heartbeat. I slowly turned the screen toward my mom. She read it. All the color drained from her face. That's not possible, she whispered. But I was starting to realize something. If Ava was my full sibling, that meant she shared both parents. Not just Daniel. My voice barely worked. Mom, I said slowly, who is Ava's mother? She looked like she might faint. That's not the right question, she said. Then what is? She swallowed hard. The real question, she whispered, is why Daniel listed a different father on Ava's birth certificate too. The room went completely silent. 2 amended birth records. 2 fathers reassigned. 1 fire. 1 unidentified body. And now a sister who believed we'd both been lied to. I stared at my mom. You said no one survived, I said carefully. She didn't answer. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure she had survived that night either. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed at my mom's house, lying in my childhood bedroom, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 8. Everything felt fake. My name. My father. My entire childhood. At 7:12 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Ava. Can we meet? I live in Naperville. There's more you need to know. There's more. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. Yes. Naperville looked painfully normal. Coffee shops. Dog walkers. Parents pushing strollers. I spotted her immediately. Same dark hair. Same narrow chin. Same nervous habit of tucking hair behind her ear. It was like looking into a slightly altered mirror. She stood when I approached. Lily? Yeah. Her voice shook. You look like me. I was just thinking the same thing. We didn't hug. It was too surreal for that. We sat at a small table near the window. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other. I grew up thinking my dad died in a car accident, she said finally. My heart skipped. What? Daniel Mercer. My father. That's what I was told. The air felt thin. My mom said he left one night and crashed his car outside Joliet. They said the body was too damaged for an open casket. I felt a chill spread through me. Wait, I said slowly. Daniel survived a fire in 1996. She nodded. I know. You know? She leaned forward. My mom told me the truth 2 weeks ago. Why now? Because I ordered the same DNA kit you did. I blinked. You what? She nodded. When your name popped up as a full sibling match, I confronted her. My pulse quickened. And? She said Daniel never died in a car crash. The coffee shop noise faded into a dull hum. So he survived the fire, I whispered. And he survived the car accident. Yes. Then where is he? Ava swallowed. That's what I've been trying to figure out. My stomach twisted. Why would both our moms lie? She hesitated. Because they were both interviewed in the fire investigation. That hit hard. My mom too, I said. Ava nodded slowly. My mom admitted something else. I braced myself. She said the fire wasn't random. The room felt smaller. What does that mean? She said Daniel and your grandfather had been fighting for weeks. About what? You. I froze. That's impossible. I wasn't even born yet. Exactly. The word hung between us. You were pregnant, she continued. Daniel wanted to leave town. Start over somewhere else. Your grandfather threatened to report him for something. For what? She hesitated. For fraud. The word felt random. What fraud? Insurance. A memory flickered in my mind. Mom mentioning insurance claims. Lawsuits. Chaos. The Whitaker house had recently increased its insurance coverage, Ava said quietly. I felt cold all over. I'm saying investigators suspected the fire might have been set intentionally. The implication landed slowly. For the payout? She nodded faintly. But that doesn't make sense, I said. Grandpa died. Ava looked at me carefully. Are you sure? The question hit like a slap. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone. I requested archived records. She turned the screen toward me. An old scanned report. Victim 1, Margaret Whitaker, confirmed. Victim 2, Evan Whitaker, confirmed. My grandmother. My uncle. I kept reading. Victim 3, adult male, identity inconclusive. Presumed Thomas Whitaker. Presumed. My throat went dry. They never conclusively identified your grandfather, she said softly. But my mom said they assumed it was him because Daniel was missing. My mind raced. So the body they thought was Daniel might have been Grandpa. Yes. And the body they thought was Grandpa might not have been either of them. Silence swallowed us. After the fire, Ava continued, Daniel contacted your mom. Yes. And then he disappeared. Yes. My mom said he showed up at her apartment 6 months later. My heart slammed against my ribs. He did what? He said he'd made a mistake. That things had spiraled out of control. Did he admit to starting the fire? No, then what mistake? She hesitated. He said the wrong person died. Everything inside me went still. What does that mean? I whispered. Ava's eyes filled with fear. He said it wasn't supposed to happen like that. The coffee shop suddenly felt too loud. Wasn't supposed to, I repeated. She nodded. He claimed your grandfather staged the fire. My brain couldn't process fast enough. To fake his death? I asked. Yes. For insurance money. And Daniel? He was supposed to leave town that night. Create distance. Make it believable. My stomach twisted violently. So this was planned? That's what he told my mom. But it went wrong. She nodded slowly. The fire spread faster than expected. My chest tightened. And someone got trapped. Yes. Who? Ava's voice dropped to almost nothing. Daniel never said. I sat back, trying to breathe. If Grandpa planned it, I said slowly, then why disappear? Maybe he didn't. The words felt like ice. What are you saying? Ava leaned closer. My mom said Daniel was terrified of someone. Who? She wouldn't say. Was it Grandpa? She implied it. My thoughts were spiraling. So let me get this straight, I said. There was an insurance increase. An argument. A staged fire plan. A misidentified body. Daniel survives. Grandpa maybe survives. Then Daniel vanishes again. Yes. And both our birth certificates get altered. She nodded. Why? Ava's eyes locked on mine. Because if Daniel was legally declared dead in two separate incidents, no one would look for him. The logic was horrifying. But why fake his death twice? I whispered. Unless, she said slowly, he wasn't faking it. A cold wave moved through me. You think someone killed him? She didn't answer. But she didn't have to. At that exact moment, my phone rang. It was my mom. I answered immediately. Mom? Her breathing was frantic. Lily, she said. Where are you? In Naperville. There was a long pause. You met her? Yes. Her voice dropped. You need to come home. Why? Another pause. Then the words that made my blood run cold. Because someone just broke into my house. Silence. And they weren't looking for money. My grip tightened on the phone. What were they looking for? Her voice trembled. The fire records. I drove back to my mom's house with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The rain hadn't stopped. It felt like the sky refused to either. When I pulled into the driveway, 2 patrol cars were parked outside. The front door was open. And something inside me knew, this wasn't random. This wasn't theft. This was cleanup. An officer stepped toward us. No forced entry, he said. But someone went through the office. Of course they did. That's where the fire records were. The sealed petition. The amended birth certificate. The proof that 2 men had been declared dead, without ever being properly identified. Inside, the house felt violated. Drawers dumped. File boxes ripped open. The blue court document was gone. Nothing else. No jewelry. No electronics. Just history. My mom sat on the couch like she'd aged 10 years overnight. They knew exactly what they were looking for, she whispered. Ava stood near the doorway, stiff and pale. This isn't about money, she said quietly. No, I replied. It's about silence. And that's when my mom broke. I should have told the truth, she said. Not defensive. Not evasive. Just tired. I thought I was protecting you. From what? I asked. She looked straight at me. From your grandfather. The room went still. He survived the fire, she continued. He came to see me 2 weeks later. My stomach turned. You saw him? Yes. He said the fire was supposed to be small. Controlled. Enough damage for an insurance claim. Ava's face drained of color. And Daniel? She asked. My mom's voice trembled. Daniel didn't know how far your grandfather was willing to go. I felt the air thin. He told Daniel it would only affect the garage. But it didn't, I whispered. No, the fire spread into the house faster than anyone expected. My grandmother and uncle never made it out. And the unidentified body they found? It wasn't Daniel. It was a man who'd been staying in the detached garage. Someone no one even knew was there. The weight of that settled over us like ash. So Grandpa staged it, Ava said quietly. And Daniel panicked. Yes. He wanted to confess, my mom said. He told me he couldn't live with it. And Grandpa? I asked. He told Daniel if he went to the police, he'd make sure I was charged as an accomplice. My chest tightened. Were you? No. But I knew about the insurance increase. I didn't question it. Silence. Daniel disappeared 3 days later, she continued. Ava swallowed hard. You think Grandpa, I think he made sure Daniel wouldn't talk. The implication didn't need detail. It was heavy enough. And then? I asked. Your grandfather changed his name. Left Illinois. Started over. She stood slowly and walked to a kitchen drawer. Not the office drawer. A different one. From the back, she pulled a photograph. A recent one. An older man in Missouri. Gray beard. New name. Same eyes. I'd seen those eyes in childhood photos. He's alive, I whispered. Yes. The man who was supposed to have died saving his family had built a second life instead. While Daniel was erased. While 2 innocent people were buried. While my entire identity was rewritten. That's why the birth certificate was changed, my mom said. If Daniel was legally alive, the investigation would reopen. If he was legally dead, it stayed closed. And Ava? I asked. Daniel did the same thing after the second disappearance. Different state. Different paperwork. 2 amended identities. 2 falsified deaths. 1 fire. And generations of lies. That's when I understood the title that had haunted every newspaper clipping. No one survived. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. 3 months later, the case reopened. Not because of gossip. Because of documentation. Archived insurance records. Misidentified remains. Duplicate death filings. And 1 anonymous tip. My grandfather was arrested in Missouri under his second name. He didn't fight it. When confronted with the financial records tied to the insurance payout and the cash withdrawals linked to Daniel's final known movements, he stopped speaking. They never recovered Daniel's remains. But they found enough. A storage unit rented in cash for years. Inside, burned clothing fragments. A wallet. Daniel Mercer's ID. Forensic evidence confirmed it had been exposed to high heat, but not the original house fire. The timeline told the rest. Daniel hadn't survived for long. Grandpa did. The court case didn't end dramatically. There was no movie-style confession. Just paperwork. Financial trails. Witness statements. And quiet accountability. He died in prison before trial. Heart failure. No public statement. No apology. The lie died with him. Ava and I stayed in each other's lives. At first because we had to. Then because we wanted to. We share a father who tried to fix a mistake. And a grandfather who tried to bury it. We share truth now. And that's heavier, but cleaner. Sometimes I think about that email. 2:17 a.m. Your DNA results are ready. If I hadn't opened it, the lie would still be intact. My father would still be someone else. Daniel would still be a closed file. And a man who destroyed lives would still be free under another name. The DNA test didn't ruin my family. It exposed what had already been broken. And maybe that's the real lesson. Truth doesn't destroy families. Secrets do. If you discovered your entire identity was built on someone else's lie, would you dig for the truth? Or would you leave it buried? I want to know what you choose.